Greetings, fellow adventurers, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you for choosing our video on Makera Assada. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Makera Assada is among the areas that form the town of Sokoto state of Nigeria. The area is part of Magajin Gari Ward in the southern part of Sokoto North local government area of Sokoto state, bordered Gidan Haki in the east, Digyar Agyare in the west, Mafara in the north, and Helele in the south. In this segment, we'll be unraveling the complexities of etymology and exploring its multifaceted nature. According to oral sources, Makera Assada was formerly known as Makera Dutsi. The word Makera is a Hausa name for smithery. The area is known for its blacksmithing, which happened to be the main occupation of the area. The area thus became known as Makera. On the other hand, the reason why the area is associated with Gidan Assada is that in the neighboring area, at the southern part, is the place popularly known as Gidan Assada, which extended up to the river of Dundee. This area is a hilly area with small and flat rocks. There were people who were said to have settled in the place. Although the region is not suitable for agriculture, people happened to settle there. At that early time, around the years after the formation of Sokoto, Assada was said to be one of the most important personalities who settled near the Dutsi, and he consistently stopped children from climbing it. Consequently, people started calling the place Gidan Assada. Assada was very popular in the area, very kind and friendly. He was said to be among the close friends of the Sultan and even used to receive Sultan visitors in his residence. His house was like Gidan Haki or guest house. The reason why Assada is added as a suffix to Makera is to differentiate it from other areas known for blacksmithing. The other places where smithing occurred included Kofarini, the area that specialized in white metal smithing, producing earrings and necklaces. There is also Makera in Newport that produces hoes and other farming tools. But in Makera Assada all types of smithing take place. This explains why Assada is the home of Sakin Maker and Sakin Musalmi, or the chief smith of the Sultan of Sokoto. Brace yourself for an in-depth analysis as we navigate through origin of the people of Makera Assada and its far-reaching implications. The origin of the people of Makera Assada is not clear. No one knows the exact date of settlement, but it is assured that the people settled after the Jihad of Shurasmanudanfadeo in the 19th century, when Sokoto was founded. The coming of immigrants played an important role in the history and the growth of the area. These immigrants include the blacksmiths from Zamfara, who were also Fulani under the leadership of Muhammad Andi and his brother Ahmad Magajin. The time Shurasmanudanfadeo started his teaching and preaching in his hometown Digyar, and after some time he went out on preaching tours. His first tour was to Kebbi, from where he gained his first converts. The Uthman and his assistants, including his younger brother Abdullahi ibn Fodio, made for Zamfara, where they remained and preached for 5 years. His preaching influenced many people from different parts of West Africa. Very soon, interested people who were influenced by his preaching continued to form part of the Jamaat, as his followers were known. The people included both the Fulani, his race, and Hausa, since Shurasmanu preached both in Hausa and Fulfilled languages. Many more people form his fold, and the community grew still further in fame both in and out of Hausaland. Muhammad Andi and his brother Ahmad Magajin, together with their people, left Zamfara in order to join Shah, who had migrated to Guru, and possibly the jihad that was going on. Malam Bello stated that when the Muhammad Andi and his people left Zamfara, they met Shurasmanudanfadeo when the jihad was going on and even participated in the Great Battle of Al-Kalawa. According to oral sources, Muhammad Andi and his people were Fulanis from Zamfara. Their chief occupation was blacksmithing. These people were ill-treated before they left their home Zamfara because of their belief in Shu's preaching. The Hausa rulers feared that their subjects would revolt against them. Seeing this, the Hausa rulers were alarmed. They saw the growing number of his following and the hold that Islam had gained. Men urged them on, saying, "If you do not disperse this concourse of people, your power will be gone. They will destroy your country by causing all the people to leave you and go to them." It is important to note that, when Saki Nafata was the king of Goba, He forbade any man from holding religious meetings and preaching to the people, excepting only Shu. Secondly, he decreed that Islam might only be practiced by those who inherited the creed from their fathers, and he also prohibited the wearing of turbans by men and veils by women. These edicts were proclaimed in every marketplace in Goba and the neighboring parts of Adar and Zamfara, which were under Goba domination. With these we can see that the Jamaat of Shuasmanu and other followers in different places, most especially in Hausaland, shared the same fate. Consequently, the people of Muhammad Andi who were in Zamfara had no choice but to migrate and follow Shu wherever he was. On their migration, the Hausa rulers tried to stop them from following Shu. In order to escape from their threats, the people of Andi complained to them that they were only blacksmiths on their way for business activities. As each opened their luggage, it was discovered that it contained blacksmith's tools, and therefore allowed them to pass. These people were welcomed by the Shu and his Jamaat, especially because of their profession. This people remained with the Jamaat of Shuasmanu Danfodio and participated in the Jihad of Hausaland. The people of Muhammad Andi continued with their profession, thereby producing war tools and weapons for the jihadists. During the wartime they produced swords, spears, arrows, handmade guns, helmets, shields and other materials worn by horses. After the Jihad of Hausaland, following the creation of the Sokoto Caliphate by Shuasmanu and his son also war commander Muhammad Bello, they came together with their followers, scholars, friends, relatives and other participants of the jihad. These people were given a portion of land to settle with their people. Muhammad Andi was therefore one of the beneficiaries, being the first to settle at present Makera Assada. Shu ordered Muhammad Andi to go round and look for a convenient place for him to stay, and when he found the area Makera Assada he informed Shuasmanu Danfodio. Shu therefore blessed the land. According to oral sources, Shu wanted Muhammad Andi to stay near Haba, but Andi complained that by nature of their blacksmith occupation and also kind of animal husbandry, it was better for them to settle far away from the center of the town. After some years, another important personality arrived at the newly established Makera with the members of his family. This person is popularly known as Sharif Muhammad Al-Gudana. He was with some other people. Al-Gudana and his people were Adarawas. Adarawa are found in Tamask, Uza and Adar region in Toa, Niger Republic. They are also found in Helele in Sokoto. As a result of the Jihad of Danfodio in the 19th century, the Sakin Adar Mustafa and his son Muhammad Dan al-Mustafa and also Omar Bida visited Danfodio when he was in Guru, but Mustafa left Omar Bida and Muhammad with Shu. Hamadan, who succeeded to the throne of Sakin Adar during the Jihad of Danfodio, sided with Gobrawa until 1809, when Sakin Usman Muhammad Jemma, who succeeded al-Bakri, took Sakin Adar Hamadan with him to Shuat Sifoa, and Sakin Adar made his submission. He died soon after that. Omar Bida was said to have stayed at Dundee as the Sakin Adar of Dundee. Thus was born the dynasty of Adarawa at Dundee. Ibid. We can see from the above account that during the jihad, Adarawa participated in it, and after, some of them stayed at Dundee and spread in different parts of Sokoto in search of business activities. But some of them returned to Niger Republic under Muhammad Dan al-Mustafa, who prepared to remain in Adar with the hope of regaining to his throne. When these people settled in the area, they practiced leather work. They produced all kinds of leather materials like shoes, leather bags, royal pillows, etc. But these people did not become popular in leather work, as most of them adopted the occupation of their host, blacksmithing. Let's now zoom in on occupations and uncover the hidden gems that lie within. As many people continued to stay in the area, the major economic activity of the people had been blacksmithing, which was dominant in the area, the people having been engaged in various types of gainful employment. The people of the area engaged in all forms of smithing and other iron work. Both blacksmithing and whitesmithing is practiced in the area. Blacksmithing has been practiced since the establishment of the region after the Jihad of Shuasmanu. The people of the region used to regard blacksmithing as a compulsory occupation of every member of the area. They regard those who abandoned their grandfather's occupation as committing a serious offense. The act of smithing provides income for the people of the area, as the blacksmith produces house utensils, farming tools, weapons, and so on. On the other hand, those who specialized in smithing of the white iron or Makera Assada produces decorations for women, thereby producing necklaces, earrings, hand rings, and so on. The white smiths are very few in the area, thus blacksmithing or Makera Assada are regarded as their masters. Apart from smithing, the Hausa people were noted for their active participation in commercial activities. Some people in the region engaged in internal trade kasuancy. This was especially the case with merchants with small-scale capital. They sold the goods produced in the area in villages and towns. Farming had been the preoccupation of most African society, which was extensively done during the rainy season. In this area, Makera Assada, there are people who engage in farming. These people mostly have their farmland at the riverside along Dundee and Kofokwa areas, mostly farming in small scale. In other sector of the economy in the area, there are also people who engaged in the production of mats. The major material in this manufacturing sector is wild dump palm tree and rubber. This industry was not the monopoly of either men or women. Both men and women engage in the manufacturing of mats or carpets, one day and tabarmi. However, we should not forget the contribution of women of this region towards economic activities. Some of them engage in the economic sector. The role of women as commission agents Helele, just like members of the more formal stock exchange market, the old women actively engaged in serving as commissioned agents Helele. This was because only the older women were allowed to go out of their homes. They also used to move from house to house looking for items to sell. For instance, they used to engage in large-scale trade in thread that was also manufactured at home by the women. They used to collect these homemade products either as commission agent or as through direct purchases. These women also engaged in the sale of newly produced and second-hand clothes. They also sold food items both in and outside their homes. People of all age groups used to buy these items. The women fetched a lot of income to these women manufacturers and sellers. The activities of commissioned agents were strengthened because of the nature and social attitudes and values in Sokoto. Thus is against Islamic law for married women to go up and down anyhow, especially in the marketplaces. Thus the commercial agents provides most of the items needed for them. Another economic sector where women provided their contribution, which is closely related to the agricultural sector, is the food and catering industry. Their services in this industry are not limited to the production of food for family consumption. They also processed and cooked different types of food for sale outside the family. Among the solid foods they cooked too made of rice, tung shinkafa, corn or maize, etc. Mosa round cake of flour, bula and so on. The morning drinks such as kunu, cocoa and the for which are extensively consumed during the summer season, and different types of snacks such as kozan, rogo, wakawara and so on. These were all prepared by women at home for family consumption as well for sale. Groundnut was widely produced in Hausa, and the women of the area used groundnuts to produce many different items for both family consumption and for sale. The shell of groundnuts, for instance, was ground into seed powder form to make bran dasa, which was used to feed cows and sheep. The groundnut kernel was pressed and oil extracted. This oil was used in the olden days as fuel, paraffin or kerosene, as well as for food. The solid part of the groundnut kernel was made into groundnut cake, kuli, and put to many uses, more especially in making fast food datu and as cake snacks. There are also some women of the area that specialized in producing local sauce or datu, important ingredient in making soup. Local sauce has blocked the success of such modern market favorites as Maggi Cube or Ajinomoto. Majority of the people, especially who live in the local areas, rely on local sauce. Perhaps this is why the Nigerian Food and Beverages Company decided to come out with a new brand name for modern sauce based called Dadawa Cubes. In the weaving industry, women along with the men engaged also in making of kordo and linzami. These are decorations done on the men clothing. There were also some who engaged in the manufacture of multicolored caps cube. Among the artistic works of the women folk was the design on bedsheets, zainin godo pillowcases and mattresses. Skilled women in their home did these. There were also the existence of mini-market which served the immediate needs of the people in the area. The market, which is known as Kasua Bayonjida, opens in the evening time till late in the night. Get ready for an enlightening exploration as we dig into blacksmithing in Makera Assada and understand its role in the broader context. Makera Assada, since its establishment as one of the commercial centers of Sokoto town, was known for its blacksmithing kira. It is sometimes hard to imagine today, an age where people use their surrounding environment as the only source for survival. At the very rise of African civilization, the essential tools to survival were found through the use of wood and stone tools. These tools proved to work well enough for hunting and farming, but as time changed and mankind evolved, it became necessary to find more efficient means of survival. The first known ironworking exists in Turkey, and the age of metals such as gold, copper, silver, lead and iron were not made workable until approximately 400 BC. This development slowed until around 1500 BC, with the development of furnaces capable of forging iron tools. The era of iron had begun, and the art of blacksmith soon spread throughout Western Africa. Blacksmithing began with the Iron Age, when primitive man first began making tools from iron. The Iron Age began when some primitive person noticed that a certain type of rock yielded iron when heated by the coals of a very hot campfire. In short, we can say that blacksmithing, the art of crafting that crude metal into a usable implement, has been around for a long time. In Nigeria, the Nok people shows the art of blacksmiths, which dates back to the 6th century BC. These Nigerian metal workers developed a technology that gave them the upper hand in life, and would prove to be a technology to revolutionize the world. Clapperton, writing in 1824, spoke about ironworking in Sokoto and even claimed that all the city blacksmiths were Nupes. At any rate, Nupes' preponderance in the ironworking industry is probably exaggerated by Clapperton. No doubt, many skilled iron workers came to Sokoto because they were attracted by its development in terms of settlement. Other skilled iron workers no doubt came into the city as refugees al-Kalawa, as slaves sent in from the Emirates, or by the demand of skilled hands in Sokoto itself. In the previous chapters we saw the coming of Muhammad Ali and his men from Zamfara marked the beginning of blacksmithing industry in Makera. Zamfara for long is noted for its blacksmithing. In this section, we'll be exploring roles of the blacksmiths in Sokoto. Before the coming of Europeans, Makera Assada was one of the developed areas in Sokoto town. It has been observed that most of the development that occurred to her was a result of a heavy involvement in blacksmithing, and this helped the town of Sokoto in general. Smithing was the major factor that united the people of Magajin Gari Ward. This was so because the manufactured goods by the blacksmith was needed within and around the area, as most of them engaged in farming. The neighboring Mafara people were mostly farmers and cattle rearers. This people of Mafara used to purchase the manufactured products of the blacksmith, like the farming tool, house utensils, keys and padlocks, earring, and so on. This is to say that while the people of Makera were busy producing needed materials for people, their neighbors, Mafara people, are helping them exporting their products to various places. The people of Mafara are grandchildren of Muhammad Sambo, one of the closest friends of Shu, also a jihadist and a scholar. There is a kind of intermarriage between the people of Makera and Mafara strengthen their relationship. The development of the trade was as a result of the subsistence economy practiced in the early period of time. As Makera Assada specialized in producing iron products, there was also people within and around Sokoto that engage in farming, dyeing carpentry, hunting, etc. As such, iron was needed in variety of forms: spears, arrows, sword, knives. The farmers needed hoes, matches and plowshares. According to Ibrahim Gandhi, one of my informants, contended that hunters and farmers from distant places comes to purchase various implements from the people of Makera. Pre-colonial blacksmithing Makera society was very efficient. Suck in Makera Buhari, stated that Shah Usman Video ordered his son Muhammad Bello to expand Sokoto town. The area of Assada continues to receive more and more immigrants. The blacksmith of the area is one of the factors of their arrival. Muhammad Bello therefore ordered for the clearance of bush nearby the area up to Kofa Khor. Most blacksmiths starts to work when they were young boys, maybe age 6 or 7. They would apprentice to a blacksmith for a decade or more, and then they will set out to start their own shop. If a boy did apprentice to a master, he might spend most of his life in shop before he ever got the opportunity to be a journeyman. The people of Assada try to imbibe the knowledge of blacksmithing into every son born in the area. Later, when Western education started taking shape in the area, at first the blacksmith did not show interest. It was only those who refused to trade in smithing that were sent to school. These categories of boys were sent away so as not to be seen nearby, as their sight would be irritating to their parents. But the blacksmiths realized the importance of Western education, and they put their wards, even the lazy ones. Many people enjoyed the fruits of Western education in the area, as some of them became very closer to the government. The government need advice of this kind of people, like famous Yahya Damboka, one of the earliest scholars of Sokoto state. However, the practice of blacksmithing in Makera Assada makes the area to be recognized as the home of blacksmithing. The area was known for its smithing since the establishment of Sokoto town. That is why during the time of Caliph Muhammad Bello, he appointed the Sakin Makera from the blacksmiths of the area. By the arrival of the Europeans to Sokoto, whenever they need the service of the blacksmiths, they used to contact the Sultan. The Sultan will however call the Sakin Makera and Mazudi. The blacksmiths of Assada produces the wrought iron gates for Sokoto prison and the residence of Europeans and other places. Another important role played by the blacksmiths of Makera Assada was during the Jihad of Gidan Haki. The blacksmith, apart from participating in the jihad, they also produce weapons for the jihadists. It is believed that, if the government had taken these kind of local smithing serious, it would not have been spending money and importing farm implement and other iron products from abroad. Ironworking made farming, hunting and war more efficient. Iron allowed for greater growth in societies with the ability to support large kingdoms, which spread across Western Africa. In this part of the video, we'll be diving deep into process of blacksmithing in Assada and unraveling its profound impact. Blacksmith is a person who creates objects from iron or steel by forging the metal, by using tools to hammer, bend, cut and otherwise shape it in its non-liquid form. Usually the metal is heated until it glows red or orange as part of the forging process. Blacksmiths produces things like wrought iron gates, grills, railings, light fixtures, furniture, sculpture, tools, agricultural implements, decorative and religious items, cooking utensils and weapons. Blacksmiths work with their old clothes. This is because of the nature of the work. They used to work both in their shop Baka Makera and even at entrance of their houses, or as the case of Makera Assada, except during this time that most of the work used to take place in the market. Blacksmiths work with black metals, typically iron. The term smith originates from the word ismite, which means to heat. Thus a blacksmith is a person who works or smite black metal. Over the centuries, blacksmiths had taken little pride in the fact that theirs is one of the few crafts that allows them to make tools that are used for their craft. Time and tradition had provided some fairly standard basic tools which vary only in detail around the world. All a smith needs is something to heat the metal, something to hold the hot metal with, something to hit the metal on, and something to hit the metal with. The tools which blacksmiths need to include the forge or tukanya, which is placed under the ground. Forge is a fireplace of the blacksmith's shop. It provides the means to keep and controlled with the help of Mizuzudi. Tongs or wataki are used to hold the hot metal. They came in a range of shapes and sizes. Intriguingly, while tongs are needed for a great deal of blacksmithing, much work can be done by mere holding the cold end with one's bare hand. Steel is a fairly poor conductor of heat, and orange hot steel at one end would be cold to the touch a foot or so. The anvil makera at its simplest is a large block of iron or steel. Over time, this has been refined to provide a rounded horn to facilitate drawing and bending, a face for drawing and upsetting and bending, and on one or more holes to hold special tools, swags or hardies, and facilitate punching. Often the flat surface of an anvil will be hardened steel, and the body made from tougher iron. Blacksmith's hammer or maleshi tend to have one face and a peen. The peen is typically either a ball or a blunt wedge cross or straight peen depending on the orientation of the wedge to the handle, and it is used when drawing. Swag magagari, this is shaping tool. Swags are either standalone tools or fit the hardy hole on the face of anvil. The blacksmiths work by heating pieces of wrought iron or steel until the metal becomes soft enough to be shaped with hand tools, such as hammer and chisel. To fuel the smelter or the forge, wood is converted to charcoal is used. The techniques of blacksmithing may be roughly divided into forging, sometimes called sculpting, welding, heat treating and finishing. Forging is also referred to as sculpting because it is the process of shaping metal. Some of the operations or techniques applied in forging to include drawing, shrinking, bending, upsetting and punching. Drawing can be accomplished with a variety of tools and methods. Two typical methods using only hammer and anvil would be hammering on the anvil horn and hammering on the anvil face using the cross peen of a hammer. Another method for drawing is to use a tool called a fullet sink or the peen of the hammer to hasten the drawing out of a thick piece of metal. The technique is called fullering from the tool. Fullering consists of hammering a series of indentations with corresponding ridge perpendicular to the long section of the piece being drawn. The resulting effect will be to look somewhat like waves along the top of the piece. Bending through heating steel to an orange heat allows bending as if the hot steel were clay or sarfi taffy. It takes significant but not Herculean effort. Bending can be done with the hammer over the horn or edge of the anvil, or by inserting the work into one of the holes in the top of the anvil and swinging the free end to one side. Bends can be dressed and tightened or widened by hammering them over the appropriately shaped part of the anvil. Upsetting is the process of making metal thicker in one dimension through shortening in the other. One form is by heating the end of a rod and then hammering on it as one would drive a nail. The rods get shorter, and the hot part widens. An alternative to hammering on the hot end would be to place the hot end on the hot end of the anvil and hammer on the cold end, or to drop the rod, hot end down, onto a piece of settle at floor level. Punching may be done to create a decorative pattern or to make a hole. For example, in preparation for making a hammerhead, a smith would punch a hole in a heavy bar or rod for the hammer handle. Punching is not limited to depressions and holes. It also includes cutting, slitting and drifting. These are done with a chisel. The combining process. The 5 basic forging processes are often combined to produce and refine the shapes necessary for finished products. For example, to fashion a cross-peen hammer head, a smith would start with a bar roughly the diameter of the hammer face. The handle hole would be punched and drifted widened by inserting or passing a larger tool through it. The head would be cut punched, but with a wedge. The peen would be drawn to a wedge and the face would be dressed by upsetting. Welding is the joining of metal of the same or similar kind such that there is no joint or seam. The pieces to be welded become a single piece. Now the smith moves with rapid purpose. The metal is taken from the fire and quickly brought together, the hammer lightly applying a few taps to bring the mating faces into complete contact and squeeze out the flux and finally return to fire again. The weld was begun with the taps, but often the joint is weak and incomplete, so the smith will again hit the joint to welding temperature and work the weld with light blows to set the weld and finally to dress it to shape. Heat treatment. Other than to increase its malleability, another reason for heating the metal is for heat treatment purposes. The metal can be hardened, tempered, normalized, annealed, case hardened and subject to other process that changes the crystalline structure of the steel to give it specific characteristics required for different uses. Finishing, depending on the intended use of the piece, a blacksmith may finish it in a number of ways. A simple jig that the smith might only use a few times in the shop. It may get the minimum of finishing a rap on the anvil to break off scale and a brushing with a wire brush. Files can be employed to bring a piece to final shape, remove bores and sharp edges, and smooth the surface. Grinding stones, abrasive paper and emery wheels can further shape, smooth and polish the surface. Finishes include but are not limited to paint, varnish, bluing, borrowing, oil and wax. However, blacksmiths strike a Mazugi is an assistant to the blacksmith. His job is to swing a large hammer in heavy forging operations. The Sakin Makera quoted, "Whenever there is any work or if the Sultan needs the service of the blacksmiths, he will invite the Sakin Makera and the Mazugi will be the person to follow him with his tools." Making an axe or a knife or a fireplace crane, set of door hinges or a handful of nails was what the village smithy did. His shop was the local hardware store. He could also repair a long chain or put rims on the wagon wheels or fix the axe that got chipped when it hit the rock. Whether the village needed swords or plowshares, the blacksmith made them. For without the blacksmith, the village could not survive. As this whole iron industry evolved over time, blacksmithing became an umbrella for several specialties. The blacksmith who made knives and swords was a bladesmith. The blacksmith who made locks was a locksmith. The blacksmith who made suits of armor was an armorer. The blacksmith who made gun barrels and triggers was a gunsmith. The blacksmith who shod horses was a farrier. The blacksmith who made earrings, necklaces and other decorations for women was a whitesmith. The blacksmith who specialized in molding gold was a goldsmith. Thus the blacksmiths possess all these skills. Brace yourself for an in-depth analysis as we navigate through assessment of the industry and its far-reaching implications. Gandhi describes the profession of blacksmithing as the main way of life to people of Assad, saying that is belief that anybody who hails from the region must be a blacksmith, hence it is a taboo for a person to abandon the occupation of his father and grandfathers. In every family of the Makera Assada, there must be an evidence of blacksmithing. This points to the importance of the craft and its antiquity among the Assada people. The smiths of Makera Assada are always at their smithing shops and workplaces. Most of the blacksmiths are not farmers, so they do not go to farm, but they have good relationship with the farmers who need their services. Smithing was particularly a different profession requiring artistic ingenuity and physical strength. Today's blacksmith is more of an interpreter of the past and artist, if you will, rather than real item. As such, it is hedged about with many taboos and requires long period of apprenticeship. The smiths are known for their use of iron and fire, to the extent that iron weapon or fire cannot harm them. The blacksmiths offered relief to farming and also supplied technological base. The blacksmiths provides items made necessary by social and day-to-day activities. Since the emergence of blacksmith into Western Africa around 1500 BC, they are feared in some Western African societies for their powerful skills in metalworking. As we mentioned earlier, most of the famous blacksmiths, iron weapon and fire cannot harm them, although some consider that as form of magic, but universally revered by West African for their technological pioneering. While common people fear the power of the blacksmith, they are highly admired and hold high social status. Because the trade is so specialized and dangerous, blacksmiths are often requisitioned by towns and villages where there are none. As such, making an axe or a knife or a fireplace crane, bowls baho or a set of door hinges are his work. He could also repair door locks or fix the axe that get chipped when it hit a rock. What affected the Makera smiths was the importation of foreign iron wares. Large quantities of cheap hardware are now on sale in the local markets. Knives, house utensils like bucket, bowls, necklaces, and so on, door bolts and hinges and other useful materials can be purchased at will anywhere. Formerly the people depended for local smith for the production of these goods. These foreign goods are cheaper and more convenient for its purpose. Although the blacksmiths of Makera Assada specialized in all kind of iron work, they did not, however, give priority to the production of locally made guns, although hunters need them for hunting animals. This is so because of security risk, as the government prohibited such production. In other words, local weapons like sword, spears, and so on are produced there. Apart from molding the iron to produce things, some individuals engage in traveling smith. They travels to many places as far as Kano, Zaria, Funtua, and even beyond the borders of northern Nigeria to buy irons that can be put to use, like damaged vehicles and planes, pieces of iron rods, oil tankers, containers, and many more. At this, metals are brought to Makera Assada until when they are needed, any company or individual who want this kind of business or irons will be directed to Makera Assada area. The occupation diversification among the Makera, particularly in their smithing crafts, shows their technological prowess and advancement. This was witnessed during the Jihad. In 1839, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, in his famous poem, The Village Blacksmith, praises the blacksmith. His brow is wet with honest sweat. He earn whatever he can, and looks the whole world in the face, for he owes not any man. If you found this video helpful, give it a like and share it with someone who might benefit from it.